just gunfire just erupted. Like top 5 firefights I'd been in. Made a ton of money with John McAfee, partied with Russian oligarchs, traveled the world over 10 times. FBI just rolls up on me hard. My niece, my little niece that I later adopted, man, she said, Uncle Jimbo, will you watch Finding...
You're good, brother.
I don't know, man. I get kind of emotional with this stuff, man. I guess when you've been through this stuff, it hits you hard. I don't know why.
It's real.
Yeah, it's real. And so, I mean, I'm considering shoot myself in the bathroom, all that stuff. So a lot of veterans are out there getting out. They're broken.
All right, y'all. What's up? Chris, Stay True Conversations. As you know, I got a very special guest here today. My boy, Jimmy Watson. Jimmy.
What's up, my man? Chris.
Glad we connected. So Jimmy and I connected through Taylor Kavanaugh, as you guys know from earlier in this series, another former Navy SEAL, and that's how me and Jimmy here got plugged in. He's down in Miami, so it made sense for us to obviously link up. I'm really fucking stoked for you guys to get this story, hear what he's got to say. A lot to fucking dive into here, and I think it's gonna keep you super entertained. On that note, we got Jimmy Watson, Navy SEAL, Marine, what else? CEO for John McAfee in the crypto.
Blackwater, crazy stuff.
A lot of hot fucking words in that.
Yeah, it's the arena, you know?
Yeah.
It's being in the arena.
Yeah.
You're either part of the crowd or you're in the arena. You know, you're going to get some tomatoes thrown in your face, but this is how it is.
It's the life of a warrior, bro.
That's right.
Mighty warrior.
That's right.
All right, so let's just dive right into it. So where you from? How'd you grow up? What's your background?
Yeah. So I'm from Muleshoe, Texas, right? Muleshoe. You spell it Muleshoe. Shoe. In West Texas, lived on a big farm, you know, like slash ranch. Lived in between a dairy and a feedlot, and so I wanted to get the heck out of there, man. Had a great childhood, loving parents, you know, awesome dad, super hardcore dad, you know, judge, preacher, crop duster, West Texas judge, you know, like all this
Texas,
straight up Texas. And but the problem is I didn't have I wasn't picking up what the other kids were picking up, man. Like a lot of kids, you know, they do well in school, and I was always just baffled by that. I just wanted to go outside and play. I want to go play battle. I want to go play Army. I want to go dig holes. I'd watch the movie Platoon. I read a bunch of all the books I could on, but they had to be very specific books. It had to be like Recondo, like One Shot, you know, One Kill by Carlos Azcárraga, all those books, right? And so I had this dream to go serve my country. I really felt. I remember looking up at the sky when I was a little kid and playing on this farm in West Texas. And I can remember feeling just so blessed. I don't know, I just felt so like, I was like, man, you know, like I know other kids don't have this. I had a 2,000-acre playground out there, you know, and it wasn't like this. I came from a rich family. It was super rural. It was dry land, farm, almost like teetering on bankruptcy all the time. Yeah. And so my dad was stressing out, but he was a stoic man. He was a man of God. He's like, hey, he's like, you know, you would never know that we were in dire straits all the time.
Sure.
And so, but I grew up on this farm, and I was always thankful for that freedom. I kind of had that inherent knowledge, understanding deep inside that this ain't free.
Yeah.
And so, man, from an early age, like I wanted to be a SEAL, I wanted to be a Green Beret, I wanted to be a tank commander, I wanted to be anything or everything to serve my country, to give back, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how it was. And I had that lion's heart, but I didn't have the athleticism that the other kids had.
Yeah.
You know, I was bullied all the time. You know, I saw my little brother get beat up all the time when we moved to Florida in the school. And so that really affected me for years and years and years. Probably it still affects me to this day. Yeah. And I've had to work through a lot of those issues and anger issues and violent tendencies. But if it weren't for that, like seeing my little brother get beat up and then me getting smoke checked, you know, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here where I am today, because I had to learn how to fuel those fears and that anger in my life to make something better of myself and accomplish those dreams.
Yeah. So it sounds like early on you were always driven to go towards the military, serving the country.
Exactly. Always.
So, would you enlist in the Marines? Is that how you got, like, where did the military start?
Like
you never had any other, I want to go work oil and gas?
No, bro.
Okay.
Nothing. One of my great aunts, like, she came up at a Texas family reunion, you know, and she's like, "Little Jimmy, what do you want to do when you grow up?" I remember telling her, I said, "I want to be a SEAL." Maybe it would flip flop each day, you know, like Green Beret. But I told her just so matter of factly, and I remember everybody just shutting their mouth for a good pause, you know, in effect, and they were just like, Where did he get that? Like, I was like 8 years old. Like, I don't know where I got that. I knew what I wanted to do. And I had a vision, a goal. But the problem is I was super unathletic. My body wasn't growing like everybody else. I was like, I probably was 140 pounds, 6'1", 140 pounds for years. Even going into Marine Corps boot camp, right? Yeah. And it was a tough going, man.
But you had the vision. And it's interesting you say that because, you know, even Kavanaugh said that, other guys I've listened to in the SEALs, it's like you guys were dialed in from a young age and just had like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Which I think says a lot though, because even back then, physically you weren't there, all that shit, but you held on to it and you basically turned it into reality.
Yeah, it didn't matter. Like to me, it didn't matter how many times I was going to fail. It didn't matter what other people said about me. I mean, I knew what I wanted. I remember the coaches saying, "Man, you know, you ain't ever going to be a Marine or in the SEALs with those run times." Yeah. Or, you know, your son's so unathletic, we won't even play him on the football team. Yeah. And I mean, it's that was that. But I knew. I mean, and for viewers watching this right now, you know deep inside who you really are. Mm-hmm. It don't matter what anybody in this world freaking tells you, or how many naysayers there are. If you know, you know. And I can remember running around that track, cross country, all this stuff. I didn't make it to high school. I got pulled out of there. I was a wild kid. But I can remember doing athletics and stuff, and I was like, this is stupid for me. Like this has nothing to do. This football stuff, you guys hitting each other and all this stuff, good on you if you like that, but it's not for me. Like for me, it had nothing to do with my vision. Yeah. And once I knew my vision and it was clear to me, like once that path is raised in your life, it's super easy because you know all other roads that lead away from that are not for you.
That's such a good point, man. Once you have that, you're dialed in that goal, you get blinders. Yeah. Nothing else. If it's moving you away from your purpose, it's just like, nah, I'm good. All right, so your military career starts in the Marines.
Yeah.
You're what, 18, enlisting? Or
I was barely 17. I had to get a GED, which for me, that was monumental, Now I got a university degree, all this later on in life, but for me at the time, because I wasn't paying attention to school at all, and all I wanted to do was go play outside. And when all you want to go do is play outside, like, it's a hard road. Yeah. And so my parents actually took me out of school because they realized this just ain't working out for Jimmy. Yeah. And the principal was like, well, keep him in. It's like, why? So he can spend 100 days in detention hall and 100 SWATs? It's over, Yeah. And they said it's over. And they were kind of disappointed because I think the school system could see where they had failed, like in getting me there, and because they fell a lot of kids out there. Yeah. A lot of kids are lost. In ADHD back in the day wasn't really well known or diagnosed, or they didn't treat it right. And man, when I got on the right medication, which I had to get off because I abused it and all this, but during that time when I was on medication later in my life, and even in the SEALs, man, I mean, I was a rock star. Yeah. And I say that respectfully, like I was a rock star because I finally had focus.
That's an interesting, and I want to hit on that, on even just in the SEALs and taking Adderall and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And it's what you said about the school system. The school system isn't set up to deal with ADHD. You're right. I think in a lot of years you were just treated as an outcast or a bad, undisciplined kid, when it's like you just learn differently than other people. Yeah,
man. When I was at James Haley Veterans Hospital years later in the SEALs, did a little stint there, and I remember the doctor coming up to me, And he got me to the side. He's like, Jimmy, I have three degree, like 3 medical, basically, qualifications degrees. He was a pharmacist, he was a psychologist, and he was an MD, right? And he says, do you know that I had severe ADHD? He says, and the difference in me and so many other kids out there, my parents actually put me on Adderall. They put me on ADHD medicine when I was a kid. And his disability actually was a major advantage and ability. And I found out that my ADHD years later was a major, it could be leveraged into a beneficial mode, into success. But it took me years to realize that.
Yeah, it ends up being a blessing in the long run in a way. When you learn how to deal with it and manage it, it's like your gift in a way. It's
a gift, but so many people look at it as oh, he's messed up, he's jacked up, and all this stuff. But in reality, and this is something I preach all the time, is that our disabilities is what God has given us.
Yeah,
there ain't no changing it. You can manipulate it with drugs or this or that, but in the very end, you need to learn how that your disability, whatever anybody else is saying out there, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The only thing that freaking matters in this life is what God says about you, what you know is truth is in your heart, and how you're going to now pursue your dreams like a freaking honey badger, like a lion, man.
That was fucking solid right there.
Yeah, bro.
That little monologue, bro. All right, so Marine Corps, you're barely 17 years old. You enlist. You're in Texas, I'm assuming.
Texas.
So where does it go from there?
So I go to the Marines, youngest student of my boot camp. I didn't realize it was going to be like physical, like I thought like, okay, they're going to yell at you. I watched the Full Metal Jacket a bunch of times and I'm like, there's no way it's like that where they put their hands on you and do this stuff, crazy stuff. And the guy's like doing something crazy in the bathroom. No, when I went, bro, the first thing they said was, Jimmy, like they were like, who's the youngest guy in here in my boot camp? Yeah. And I like raised my hand, like stupid, bro. Like, I don't know why, like how are they going to find that out? Yeah. But I knew I was the youngest. I was always the youngest, for many years. I raised my hand, and I'll never forget, the drill instructor walked up there and literally just socked me as hard as he could in the solar plex, and I flew over my locker, like straight up. I mean, I was small. Yeah. I flew backwards because I tripped over my locker, head over heels. And I remember, and I was like out of air, and I was like, this is serious. So I go through boot camp, go through School of Infantry training. I signed up to be 0311, and then this big dude came in, looked like a white gorilla. He had the silver wings on his chest, all this, gold, all this stuff. And I'm like, dang, this guy looks serious. And he came in and he asked for all volunteers to go to this little platoon. And it sounded super special, right? And it wasn't force recon, it wasn't snipers, but it sounded cool. And he's like, you're gonna shoot all kinds of different weapons. You're gonna do these long range patrols. We're going to be off in this little barracks by ourselves, which is absolutely hazing and stuff, AKA hazing, for a new guy. But so I volunteered for this. And he's like, you're kind of small, And he's like, would you fight me? And of course I was like, yeah, I'll fight you. Because my mentality was like, I'll do whatever it takes to get where I need to be. I knew I didn't have what it took to be a SEAL yet. And so I had a lot of maturing to go through. And so I went to that little platoon. Kind of a glorified position as an 0311, traveling around with Force Recon, helping them out as a trailer platoon. Did a couple deployments in the Marines. People are like, why'd you get out of the Marines? Man, I'll tell you, the living conditions were bad. The barracks had rats in serving fire watch basically with a duty belt on. I mean, they're big rats. And the living conditions were just terrible, man, in the Marines at the time. I don't know how it is now. Yeah. But
so not the most hospitable environment.
No, man. And it's just the treatment, the food, the lack of food. The biggest difference with the Marines and the SEALs was food. Yeah. They let you eat all you want in buds and stuff. In the Marines, the drill instructors used to tell us, guess what we're eating? We'd be like, duck, sir. And he'd be like, that's right, duck in, duck out. And we would basically go in the chow hall he would tell you to sit down with your tray just full of food. He would say, pick up your, fork, and you pick up your fork. Everything's like a robot. He'd say, mouth, and you like put it to your mouth, but you can't put it in yet. And then he'd say, put it down, and you put it down, and then go dump the whole tray of food in the trash, and then walk out. You're starving. Bro, in boot camp, my mom saw me, and she started like crying. And she was like, oh my God. And my dad told her to shut her mouth. Like, don't say anything.
Because you were so skinny?
So, I was gaunt, bro. High cheekbones, super skinny.
Damn.
6-something foot and super skinny and just tiny. I was like, where's my Marine jaw? I saw these guys in the commercials with these big jaws and muscles. I was like, what happened? I thought that's what happens when you go through boot camp. No.
So how long were you in the Marine Corps?
4 years in the Corps. I did my 4 in the Corps, they call it. They say 4 in the Corps. That's like your time. Did my time. Got out and wanted to do the SEALs. But I didn't do well on the test still. I had taken the ASVAB like multiple times, failed it, because I had no formal schooling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was really, really challenged, a long road to the teams. And so when I got out of the Marines, I went and took the ASVAB for the SEALs, and I scored right under their minimum score that they needed, like the mechanics part and stuff, mathematical mechanics, all this stuff. And so I was like, dang, man. And that's a big problem that guys have, is making those scores, the testing and stuff. And so here I go. I'm walking out of that ASVAB place, and there's a Green Beret there, and he grabs me and he says something like, hey, today's not your day, but maybe tomorrow is. And I'm like, man, get off me, man. I'm tired of this. Disappointed, bro.
Yeah.
Had a lot of disappointments like that along the way. And but I'll never forget, man, we need other men to come into our life.
Yeah.
Masculinity bestows masculinity. We need other men to come in our life at some point that are mentors, that are like leaders, that are successful, and that grab us and say, hey, bro, today's not the day for you, but maybe tomorrow is. And that's what he was telling me. He was speaking into me.
Yeah.
And when he said that, it kind of sparked some hope in me. And I looked at him. I said, what do you mean? And he was like, well, he goes, maybe you couldn't do SEALs now. He goes, but there's this company called Blackwater. And I had heard about Blackwater, but it was super new at the time. I mean, this is a wild, wild west at the time.
Yeah.
Right when Eric Prince started it up. And I was like, Blackwater. He said, yeah, man, Google them. I think Google was barely out. Google them, put your information in. And so I went home. I researched Blackwater, sent this resume in. Probably was the worst resume you've ever seen. I didn't know how to write a resume. Sent this resume in to Blackwater just with a bullet list of things I'd done. Like combat hand-to-hand training, ninja warrior, all this crap, bro.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of stuff, with the most sophisticated words I could on it, just to try to sell myself.
Pulling out the thesaurus.
All kinds of stuff. And they invited me really quick because they needed to fill contracts, but they were super selective at the time. And so I went to their vetting process in Moyock, North Carolina.
So, and I want to touch on this for the audience that might not know, just Blackwater, private security firm, right? What would be the Google definition if I looked at Blackwater, a private security firm that contracts with the U.S. government on overseas ops?
Basically, I think people get Blackwater confused with mercenaries,
Yes.
A mercenary is an offensive posture, direct action for other governments in other countries, right? On their behalf in a very offensive manner, right? Blackwater was designed from its onset as a defensive mechanism in support of the diplomatic Department of State mission, right? And so Blackwater was contracted out by the Department of State in this defensive posture in support of the diplomatic mission in Iraq.
Sure.
Guarding Condoleezza Rice, all the undersecretaries to Dick Cheney, all these different strap hangers, and basically we were supporting them on their missions to go do meetings out in the red zone, The Army wasn't doing it. The military wasn't doing it. But then Blackwater evolved.
Why, answer this. Why wouldn't a military branch do Blackwater's job? Is there like gray area stuff there?
It's a really strange situation, you know?
And I'm just trying to make it simple for people that don't, because the military is a whole corporation world that exists, right? That people don't even understand is a full world of its own. So I want them to understand like proper military and then these separate kind of defense groups.
Well, you have the military doing a specific mission, and whether or not they can task, they don't have enough guys or whatever the case, it all comes down to money.
Got it.
It all comes down to greed and money. Follow the money trail, and it'll get you there. It's a very complex situation, but they wanted to contract out all these different companies, and God only knows whose hands are in these pots of these contracting companies. And so they started making all these big contracts and sending all these dudes over there that are prior military. But it was weird because they gave us like GS 13 rank, and which is super high up there, you know.
Like in the military?
Yeah, it's a diplomatic rank, you know, a Department of State rank, a GS 13, you know, and then black diplomatic passports, and then guys started smuggling drugs and guns with the black diplomatic passports, so we got those taken away. I was so pissed. But it was a free-for-all. I was just talking to a Blackwater dude, Will Owens of mine, a good friend, and it was just like, dude, it was, I look back at that time, and it doesn't even seem real. The Blackwater days don't even seem real.
Because it was so wild.
It was so wild.
Yeah.
And you're not in the military anymore. You don't have to salute the generals as you go past. They don't like you because of that.
And you're making good money.
And you're making bank. When you're a young guy like that, you're making tons of money, and it's a free for all. You're going to parties. You can drink. You know, there's girls there in Iraq. There were girls, you know, going to the parties, and we would meet them. We were going to the F.B.I. compound. We were going to the Italian SEALs and partying.
It's way more dope than being in the rat-infested barracks.
Crazy. And we could have beards and whatever, haircuts, and especially in the Wild Wild West days, you know, back in the day. And I was talking to my buddy, and I look back, and you miss it, you know?
Yeah.
And you don't realize, like, what a cool time that was. You don't realize, like, the importance of that time in your life, you know?
Yeah. No, that sounds badass. So you link up with Blackwater. What's the story with them? I mean, I know there's a lot to it, right?
So much.
But you're in Iraq, I'm assuming, right? I mean, you can just get right into the meaty if you want. But if there's any, that whole experience as a whole besides the incident, is there anything else?
Yeah, it was crazy because, you know, one of the reasons why America loves using contractors, or you could call them mercenaries, whatever you want to call them. The reason why they love doing that is because they don't have to count those guys in the numbers when they die.
Right.
So just as many guys that died, just as many service members that died, is the same amount of private contractors that died. America doesn't have to report those numbers, but they double the insurgent kills, and a lot of them were from contractors out there, because we developed into this offensive posture, going in rescuing, because your defensive turns into an offensive when you're defending somebody and then you get in a sustained engagement, and then you decide to bang it out for hours on end and destroy the enemy, right? And so we're doing runs after runs, and I basically did every single position in Blackwater. I wanted to really learn it, and so I went from driver to tactical commander to agent in charge to left and right door gunner to you know, all the little birds as a door gunner for a little bit, but I was too big, too heavy, you know, flown by the 160th X-160th pilots. It was just wild, man. They used to drop us off. They used to drop two of us, man. And I look back at this and almost have nightmares. They used to drop two guys. They would ask for two volunteers, and of course I was always like this, and we would load up with a bunch of grenades, a bunch of 203 40 mite grenades in this big go bags with some water, belt fed, you know, extra nut sacks for the squad automatic weapon, the parasol, and 203s and all this stuff. And we would head out the door, get on a little bird, and they would drop 2 of us off downtown Baghdad at the height of the war in the heat of the summer. And they would literally come up, the little bird would come up like, and just right up to a skyscraper, land barely one skid touching the skyscraper right here, or the Ministry of Oil, wherever it was, a big building. We would jump off onto the building, go down inside, do like an advanced recon, make sure it was clear, and then wait for the principal to get there with a team, stay there all day by ourselves. Bro, we could have been smoked. So I don't care how many grenades you have, how much ammo you have. And I look back at that as some of the craziest stuff I did, because it was just so, and at the time you don't think it's that crazy, but you look back and you're like, dude, a lot of guys got killed doing that kind of stuff.
That's fucking wild, bro.
Yeah.
That's definitely not some shit I was watching on the news when
bro.
guys were there.
Wow.
So, sounds fucking badass. Would you say that was probably your most fun you had doing that kind of work?
Yeah, I would say, because I was still immature in a lot of ways. I was still growing up.
Were you in your mid-20s at this time?
Yeah, I was like maybe 24 years old to 28.
And what kind of money were you
4
making?
years. Yeah, I was making $500 a day, and for me at the time, it was big.
That would now be what, $1,200 a day?
Yeah, something crazy, right?
Good money for a 24, 25-year-old.
And when you're sitting there and just making that bankroll every day for months on end, it adds up.
Yeah.
And then you get like a $3,000 bonus for Christmas, $3,000 bonus for certain days.
Yeah.
And then you got like, I think it was like a 10% or 20% bonus at the end of the year off of everything. And then you're looking at like pretty much tax-free if you spend over 180 days, I think it was, something like that. And so we were coming home with some cheese.
Yeah.
And I saved a lot at the time. And basically, man, we were doing runs every day, getting crazy out there, but it was heating up and it was dangerous.
Yeah.
Sometimes they were paying you too much. Sometimes they weren't paying you enough. In fact, a lot of guys taped $500, dollar bills, like $100 bill, 5 of them above their bed. And that was their motivation, because it was hard to stay there.
Yeah.
No matter how much money.
So gnarly.
Yeah. Sometimes they're paying you too much. Sometimes they're just not paying you. You can't pay a guy $1 million an hour when he's getting shot at.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And he's about to die.
Yeah. Exactly. There's no. That's a very interesting way to put it.
Yeah.
All right. So you're doing daily runs. And obviously, I want to get into your SEAL career, but let's talk about the Blackwater incident, right?
Yeah.
When did that go down? How long had you been in? Kind of what was going on at that time?
Yeah, so I was reaching my 4-year mark with Blackwater, done all the positions, was a team leader, went to Kabul, Afghanistan, started up teams in Kabul, Afghanistan, which was crazy too. We were going in like plainclothes operations, going way up into Lashkar, Helmand, in little bitty cars with like Velcro man dresses on, with all of our machine gun armor underneath, and doing these crazy missions, bro. It was nuts. And so, and Kabul was a fun time. That was a whole different story. Then went back to Baghdad, started up another team, was a turret gunner for a long time, and then they moved me from that position to team leader of Raven 2-3. And that was a quick reaction force, part of their red cell. And you basically had to be asked to come onto that team. Yeah. And so it was a big process, but their hiring standards were lowering at the time, and they were just kind of trying to fill contracts.
Well, yeah, they were so big at that point.
Yeah,
right?
and that was Blackwater's downfall.
Yeah, they grew too quick.
Yeah. One was the fact that I made a call to go out in the NIsour Square. That was the major downfall. But one of the main reasons is because they lowered their standards to raise their average on their contracts. And when you do that, you start getting unqualified guys that don't belong there. Yeah. Like, I'm unqualified to be a police officer, to just go on the police force and start writing tickets and start doing police work, right? A lot of the police officers that didn't have that military background or SEAL background or operator, they were coming over and they just weren't qualified to be in a war.
Right.
Not saying they can't do it. Alexander conquered
Right.
a lot of the world at 20 years old. So I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. I want to ask you this: when you were with Blackwater, you're making all this bread, right? You're having, it sounds like, kind of a good time.
Making cheese.
You were still in your mind, oh, I'm going to go be a SEAL. Like that was still.
Yeah, but the door was closing, right? The window of opportunity.
Why? Because age,
just
buds, all that shit. You were taking into account, like physicality.
Yeah. And I was tired, man, of talking about it. I wasn't talking about much more. I just wanted to go do it.
Yeah.
And then I would see the teams operate and stuff throughout my time in the Marines, in Afghanistan when I was doing deployments there. In Blackwater, I would see SEAL teams. So I'd see Delta run around CAG and stuff, and on the little Blackbirds. And I was like, dang, I want to do that still. I still want that.
Yeah.
Every man wants to fight a battle, right?
Yeah.
Wall Street, in war, something.
Straight up, yeah.
We want to fight a battle. We
Yeah.
want to go on an adventure. These are the men's desires,
Yeah.
core desires. And so I went. So near my time was closing with Blackwater, and I knew I was probably going to get hit or die or something because guys were dying all around us. Guys were getting hurt, injured, and it's hard to see, like, me and you were hanging out tonight. We were drinking beers, in Iraq, right? Let's say. And then the next day, your arm's missing, you got burn marks on you, you're concussed, your head's swollen up, and that's hard to compute.
Yeah.
And so it's you're living fast.
Yeah.
And you're dying fast over there. And so I knew it was heating up. I knew we were going to have problems, and Blackwater kind of had a bounty on their heads because we were doing work.
Yeah.
Anytime you start doing good in this life, or you do work, or you start rescuing people, you're going to have somebody want to hurt you.
Yeah.
You're going to have somebody want to kill you.
Yeah.
In this instance, the enemy wanted to kill us, take us out, and so NIsour Square happened.
Boom.
And I was injured at the time from a grenade shrapnel. A little bit before that. So you could just tell it was a dangerous place.
Yeah.
I mean, I was wrapped up in gauze, trying to be hard, trying to stay there, legs swollen up. And, we're supposed to be off that day. And then, and they called this Bad Dad's Bloody Sunday. They try to equate it and describe it as My Lai's Massacre and all this. And so, but I was sitting there in the chow hall having a Coke float, root beer float. And all of a sudden, the windows just vex. And I'm in the man camp. And the windows just go boom like that. And I was like, dang. And what that was, you know the difference between mortars, grenade, RPG going off, IED, EFP, or a freaking bomb factory going off. That happened a couple times where they was like welding and ball peen hammer on an explosive and it went off. Well, this explosive, this IED went off in not very far away. You could tell, and it vexed the whole chow hall. And then all of a sudden, my radio goes off and says, contact, meaning the team that we were watching that was going to go right in and right out with the principal, with the Department of State principal, they said they had got hit. That's when you say contact, and then as a team leader, I was in charge of a 30-man assault team, with up armored. I mean, we were like the freaking Rolling Alamo in Blackwater. And I was all about business, about saving lives, about saving teams. And so when I felt that explosion, and then one of our teams had already been blown up. The team that I left, the lead turret gunner, those guys have been blown out from an EFP and a watermelon stand. They're down. So we're like one of the only two teams up in the QRF. And so when I heard that explosion go off, and then I heard them say contact, and I told the guys, get to the trucks immediately. They were already running there. Yeah. I was limping. I got to the trucks, and we raced right out there. And we got right to the checkpoint. I think it was checkpoint 1 or 2, can't remember. And we got up to the checkpoint. And all you could see is this black smoke coming out. And it's very, very difficult to hold back when you believe the team's blown up and all this. And so we're going out there, but we stopped briefly because there was a convoy ahead of us, the turning around doing a YouTube, slowing us down. And my tactical commander, Corey Wainscott, which later died, he said, Hoss, because my nickname was Hoss. He said, Hoss, what you want to do? Like, it's go time. Like, what do you want to do? Like, make a call. Because I was just like kind of mesmerized by the smoke. And I said, what do you see up there? How long is this group going to turn around before we go out? And he says, they're coming back. I'm not sure if they're hit or not, but they're coming back. We can go to the nearest traffic circle, which was NIsour Square traffic circle. And we can block that traffic circle off and cordon it off and facilitate their movement through it. And he says, what do you want to do? And you have split seconds to make a call. Yeah. And it was not abnormal to go out all the time. And so my reaction was go. Like, there's not even a question about it. Right. And so go. And so we went. And we drove into the traffic circle, the NIsour Square. And right about the time that we stopped to block the cars from moving, so that team with the diplomat could go through, something we did all the time. Right when we stopped, just gunfire just erupted, like top 5 firefights I'd been in, like just explosion of gunfire. I could feel the rounds hitting my, the shells from the turret gun up here, and it was chaos, man. And I can't really say much else about it, being part of that event and having a gag order and stuff. But that's my recollection of it. I remember the sun in my face, and it was a really bad day. Yeah. And that's when my life would be absolutely flipped upside down. From that day, I was about to leave. I was really wanting to try out for the SEALs and stuff. I was injured anyways. And I knew if I stayed there any longer, I was probably going to die. But I also had this loyalty to the team. I didn't want to leave my guys. Yeah. I didn't want to leave that team. I had other opportunities to go team lead on other teams, and I didn't want to leave the QRF, man.
So that incident happens, right?
Yeah.
Civilians got killed, essentially.
Yeah.
Becomes a huge news story.
Massive.
Blows up. Everyone knows who Blackwater is. Is this then when you get out, like while shit's kind of hitting the fan, at least in the public?
Yeah. By the time I got back to my room in Blackwater,
the same day.
By the time I got back, less than an hour, maybe 30 minutes from the NIsour Square, they're talking about going back out, and then all of a sudden we just get stopped. They're like, "Ain't nobody going out anywhere." Like, too bad. Too dangerous, all this. Helicopters are flying all over. There's black smoke everywhere. By the time I got back to my room, 30 minutes, 45 minutes later, CNN is on. I had a little bitty TV, and I remember the reporter saying, multiple casualties, NIsour Square, and burning cars, and showing this event. And that's like right there. And I'm like, oh man, that's crazy. I didn't understand the totality of what was going to happen in the guys' lives and part of the team and what had happened. And I wasn't callous to the fact that 17 or more were injured and wounded. But this was a commonality in war that I was accustomed to seeing. Right. It wasn't like NIsour Square was any different than any other days. Right. In fact, brother, something that always kind of made me kind of angry and upset for many years, I dealt with a lot of issues after this, and something that really bothered me was, I remember the week before NIsour Square, maybe a couple weeks, we were going through there, and the streets were just soaked in blood. It was like something out of the Bible, like biblical, where streams of blood, but the streets were soaked in big pools of blood. And it was kind of surreal. It's like something that you might think that happens in the movies and stuff, and I did too, but I saw this as a turret gunner position. I was looking over, and I remember it looked like that old movie Tremors, where the worm goes under the ground and just upheaves the entire traffic circle. The news tried to portray this as a one-sided thing, us being the monsters, right?
Yeah.
And the NIsour Square, though, was blown up just a couple weeks before that by their own people, destroyed, and civilians killed everywhere. Civilians were being killed everywhere all the time. And so it was really, it's really difficult to be painted as the monster for so many years.
Right.
When you know what happened and you know that, and you know your intentions. It goes back to like, you know, the intentions in your heart. You know, God knows. And I've learned over the years that that's the only thing that matters in life. Because it doesn't matter. People will come and go in your life. Friends will come and go, betray you. Say they're the most loyal dudes in the world and they betray you, all this stuff. But, you know, the enemy wants to portray you as the exact opposite of who you really are. So you want to go save people? You want to be a good boy and a patriot and die for your country and be the hero and the patriot and go save little kids, which we did a lot of in Iraq. Well, now you're going to be portrayed as and painted as a monster. The opposite of who you are. You want to give money away. You want to help people out, bless people. Well, now you're going to be portrayed as a greedy individual. You know, and that's a lot of how the life
and it's
life
serving
works.
because it's to help serve someone else's agenda usually.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like they're painting you. They take that one situation, and this is a lesson I think even to civilians of like, don't trust the fucking news all the time,
brother.
Right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because what you just said, if they're documenting what you were dealing with every day, people's perception would have been completely different.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know what the fuck is going on. And that's why I think it's crazy when people now even try to speak on Ukraine, Russia, right? Or even Israel, Palestine. I, as a civilian, have no fucking clue.
But I don't have a clue.
Unless I fully am going to trust what Fox, CNN, whoever it is, right? I mean, you have better luck, I guess, even on Twitter with these iPhones, but you don't even know if that's real shit.
Yeah, after seeing Obama as I think he was a senator at the time, and they asked him about the Blackwater case, he didn't have any
opinion.
He didn't have any word about it or anything, and he literally said, "These guys need to go to prison for life." Like something, paraphrase here, but something very, very similar. And I saw McCain, you know, another senator.
Sure.
I'm not trying to get political here, but McCain, these public figures saying, these guys need to be held accountable. Well, McCain was not.
You were a fucking Vietnam.
He was
war prisoner,
napalming,
right?
Yeah, and he was napalming villages with napalm.
Right.
So, to me, it was like super hypocritical of all these guys trying to step up the ladder off of our backs.
Yeah.
And after seeing that on CNN and us, I had never tasted this before.
Sure.
How you can be portrayed as a monster, and that doesn't take responsibility off me, man. I mean, I hope people see this as, you know, I'm brutally honest and I take full responsibility for my actions, right? And that's not to say that the 17 civilians weren't killed, but when you get in a firefight in a super Walmart parking lot, let's say, because that's what it's like. It's not Afghanistan where it's kilometers away or meters or yards away. It's right in your face in a city like New York, 4 or 5 million people. And when you get in a firefight like that, you can't hear where the rounds are coming from. They echo off bullets. Yeah. It's super chaotic, super loud. It's total freaking all-out survival.
Yeah.
And when you're getting shot at, unless you've been shot at point blank like me, you really, it's very difficult for me to listen to somebody to judge that, right?
How can I have an opinion if I've never even been in that situation?
Yeah.
And if I wasn't in the situation, only you know the truth, right?
Only we know the truth about our lives, and that's why that's why I love the story about this hardcore Jesus guy. He walked around and he just called out hypocrisy.
Yeah,
he called out hypocrisy, and I've always loved the story because in my life I've seen a lot of hypocrisy. I've seen hypocrisy in myself, and had to internalize that and say, Jimmy, you're judging this dude.
Straight up.
You've done 10 times worse. And so I'm automatically, systematically like, dude, I'm full of shit.
Yeah.
I'm full of shit, man.
Yeah.
Like when I'm not full of shit anymore is the day I always come back to reality and say, Jimmy, you know, look at your own life, judge your own life, work on yourself.
Yeah.
Refine yourself as a man.
Yeah.
Be a mighty warrior, you know, and then you can go help your buddy with the splinter in his eye.
Right.
You know? Reminds me, bro, after seeing all this stuff on the news and stuff, I went home, years ago, and this was a major lesson in my life. I walked by the TV, and there was this black guy on there, and he's sitting. They're just throwing the book at him. He's getting the electric chair for a brutal murder of this girl. And I remember walking by, and I said, "Good, send him to the electric chair," because I'm from Texas,
Of course, capital punishment.
Yeah. Send him through the line, you know. And I'll never forget, man. Like 2 years later, I'm sitting at a bar, and I'm watching TV, and this guy is up there, getting completely exonerated
Innocent.
from DNA. Dude, I sunk so low in that seat. And I was like, this guy, I murdered him.
Yeah, like I was wishing death upon this man, and I didn't really.
Yeah, who's the murderer?
Yeah,
that guy who is innocent, or this random dude walking by the TV going, "Yeah, put that guy in the fast track, dude." I am if I'm condemning him to death.
Yeah,
and so my perspective has changed throughout my life, man.
Dude, I relate with that. Because I feel like we almost all do it on autopilot, especially with social media, right? It's so easy to be like, fucking idiot, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Look at this dumbass. I mean, even, dude, on the way to pick you up, I was getting fucking angry in traffic, right? And
Oh, yeah.
and it's like, at the end of the day, is it really that big of a deal? And I'm this fucking bitch. It's like, for all I know, I don't know, they got a baby in the car, you know what I mean? It's just, we're so consumed, and it takes that little perspective shift. And more like, I have no fucking place to be judging anyone else.
No.
Unless, right, like, we have proof that something horrible happened, of course.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like, I can disagree with it, but still, like, I'm not God, you know? And I feel like you almost get to that point where your faith is so strong, it's going to be dealt with. I don't need to be the judge. Like, there's a bigger being here that will judge these acts. So, Blackwater happens, you get out, do you immediately start going for the SEAL training, or what's
well, no, man. Or
did you have the legal shit?
I got out, and the SEAL thing was done. I mean, my whole life was. When you put yourself in this position,
So you were in the spotlight.
Spotlight all over the news. I'm having a lawyer up. I got the F.B.I. coming to my mom and dad's house. I refuse to talk to him. I'm just like, what? The lawyers keep telling me, Jimmy, there's nothing to worry about here. This will never go to trial. Nothing will ever happen about this. But I had this feeling inside that something bad was coming, man. That this was going to grow, because I knew it was way, way bigger than just these guards need to fry.
Right.
No, it was political.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And later they found out that it was part of the negotiation piece, and it all made sense years later on, but it was really confusing at the time. But it was the Blackwater incident was leverage for the president of Iraq at the time to be able to say, I want these guys in prison for life. And if you do that, you can get the Reconstruction deal. And I believe they later found that out to be to Biden and Biden's brother or his uncle, okay? I'm not a big conspiracy guy, but it all makes sense.
Yeah.
When you look at
Biden's brother, Hunter's uncle.
Yeah, and when you really look at...
It's not a conspiracy when you follow the fucking money, bro.
Exactly, bro. Follow the freaking money trail, and you'll find your answers. And so all this was confusing to me at the time, like why they were so vehement about coming against the Blackwater guys. And so it's all over the news. I came home to recover from the injury. The pain management doctor is just giving me McDonald's size sacks of fentanyl, Loratab. On top of that, I'm drinking. On top of that, bro, the pressure was so immense, and the guilt of leading my men into this situation. No one died, but now if they went to prison for life, then the guilt of that, what if I go to prison for life? All these things. And so I'm just like, I just turned into like a loose cannon. I started drinking all the time, fentanyl patches. You know, they would give me these fentanyl patches.
Yeah.
It almost make you pass out, so I'd cut them in half and put them on my thigh. And I really didn't need that. You know, like the old, like, just, you know, now you're hooked, and now I'm just going to, you know, of course I'm in more pain, you know. Right. Even if he's got to give you a spinal injection, you don't care. You're like, I'll do it to get the drugs.
Yeah.
And so I'm drinking all the time. I'm just spiraling out of control at the house. And there's even moments, bro, and I've never told anybody this, but there's moments where, you know, at the time I had a rental house, and I remember walking by the shower, and I remember thinking, you know, man, if I turn the shower on, I shoot myself in this shower with, it's all rocks, then like it will reduce the cleanup, and there's really no furniture. I was sleeping on the ground in this rental house, and I had no furniture, nothing. I was drinking, man, and I remember thinking about that a lot, man. I still get emotional about it because I was this close, man, all the time. Like I was like, and it's terrifying.
Yeah, now
to be that close to ending your life when there's hope, but you don't see the hope often when you're that lost.
So what held you over then? Like, what at that point would you hold on to?
I held on.
Fight.
I held on to the love of my parents.
Yeah.
I knew they wanted me to be there, but I also knew that I was in for a very, very difficult road that would last 15 years of my life more, of a lot of pain, and then in seeing those guys go to prison, and knowing that I knew these guys, and I knew their attitude in life. I knew who they were, and it's not where you have, you know, a situation where you got a bunch of psychopaths that just happened. The moon, the eclipse happened, and the sun and the moon, and now there's all these psychopaths on one team, ran by a psychopath, and we're plotting and planning to go get revenge. No, you want to follow the money. The money was taped above my bed, $500 a day. Like, if I do anything weird, I lose that. You know, if you want to go to the very basics here. And so nobody was doing weird stuff because it was win or out. And I'd kick a guy out for that of my team. And so that was hard to deal with.
I'm sure. No, I mean, I feel like, bro, I mean, I've faced legal shit. It's a fucking heavy burden to carry on your conscience, you know, especially financially. That definitely doesn't help. So where do you go from there? You know, where do you go from fucking contemplating offing yourself in a rental?
You know, you either, there ain't no trying life. My little brother, his last text to me, last message to me on the cell phone was, man, I'm just trying life.
Damn.
And then he died. So one of the messages I want to get across to your audience is there ain't no trying life, you know, and he made that mistake, and don't make that mistake in this life, is trying life out. There's no try. There's only do or die. And so for me, it was either go in that bathroom, you know, soak up the fentanyl, keep drinking like a freaking loser, and wasting away, or fight like hell, and with your back up against the wall, with no point of return, no escape. Leave yourself no room for escape. Leave yourself no option to commit suicide or take yourself out. And a lot of guys took that route out. And I'll tell you what, being in that situation, I couldn't blame them because life is hard. And so I chose to just lock it up and just go all out. I said, man, I'm going to charge the machine gun nest. I'm going to fight until I die, because I'm dead anyways, you know?
Nothing to lose.
And so I decided I'm going for the SEALs. Everybody said I was crazy. SEALs is hard enough. We've all read the books, how hard it is, all this. It's hard enough as it is, not having any kind of background, not facing any of this. For me, I mean, my dad even still talks about it today. It was like this needle 10 miles away. You know, the eye of a needle 10 miles away, and I'm trying to thread that sucker, man. And against all odds. But it's not what you do in the sun. It's not what you do when the sun's out, guns out.
Straight up.
It's what you do in the storm that makes you a man. You got to yell into that storm, do your worst, for I will do mine.
Hell yeah.
And that's what I did. I threw up my hands, and I said, I'm all in and all out. And do your worst, for I will do mine. And that's what I did. I went all out, bro.
Fuck yeah.
In everything after that in my life. Everything. Facing all those years in prison. And I just call it delusional confidence, call it whatever you want to call it. I just was like, I just stared in the face of the storm and was like Lieutenant Dan on Forrest Gump. He's just like, come on. And then and you notice because he does that, he has some kind of epiphany. And that switches flip. And that switch has got to be flipped several times in your life. But when it flips, man, you're a freaking dangerous man.
Yeah, bro.
When that switch flips in your head, you become dangerous. In the most positive way ever. Because people see that and they're like, dang, this guy, he's not normal. In a positive way. Like nothing's stopping him, nothing phases him. No amount of tomatoes thrown at you because you're in the freaking arena.
Bro, I fucking love that. That's the truth right there. So, case got dismissed, right?
The case, and like I said, you step in boldness. The righteous are as bold as a lion, the Bible says. You step out in absolute boldness, like a freaking G, like Cav says, T-Cav, big T-Cav. You know, you step out as a freaking lion into the arena. And I'm telling you, even if you go down, people are going to remember your name. You're going to leave a legacy. Like, dude, that guy was crazy as hell. Yeah, he hit hard, but he left a footprint in this world. For the good. And that's what I decided to do. So I went after the SEALs all out. You know, saw a movie, Finding Nemo, was all on the fentanyl, all on the drugs, the alcohol case, Blackwater cases going on.
And you're not working or anything at this time?
No, man. I was collecting insurance from my injury, being a real loser, man. You know, not being a real G.
Been there too, bro.
Been there, man. Right? I tell the truth. Like, you know, collecting money for this injury. You know, soaking up the fentanyl, doing all this stuff, numbing, drinking. You're asking my buddy, hey, what else you got? You got something stronger? You know, it's never enough.
No.
It ain't never enough. Then you're chasing that high. And I remember, man, my niece, my little niece that I later adopted, man, years later, she said, Uncle Jimbo, will you watch Finding?
You're good, brother.
I don't know, man. I get kind of emotional with this stuff, man. I guess when you've been through this stuff, it hits you hard. I don't know why.
It's real.
Yeah, it's real. And so, because you remember, I mean, a switch has got to flip in your head. And you remember those times in your life when that flip switches. And this is one of those times. So I'm down and out. I mean, I'm considering shoot myself in the bathroom, all that stuff. She asked, Uncle Jimmo, will you watch Finding Nemo with me? I said, yeah. And, you know, out of the mouth of babes, out of the mouth of kids, childlike faith, man, is all you need. And she had that childlike faith, right? And so we turn on Nemo. I'm bored. It's about some fish trying to find its dad, all this crazy stuff. But if you think about the movie, he's in an ocean. And it's an ocean. An ocean represents two planes. Impossibilities. It's the depths are unsearchable. They know more about space than the ocean, all this stuff. And then the ocean also represents adventure, possibilities, newness in your life. And so I watched this Finding Nemo, watching the show, and I remember I'm sipping on my Jack right here, trying to be a good father, trying to be a good uncle, but you're not a good father. You're not a good uncle, like I always say. If you're doing all this stuff, you may think you are, but you're absent. You're not present, like John McAfee said, present, being present. And so at the end of Finding Nemo, I remember it was kind of a touching movie. I was done, about to get up, black screen comes on, and then a long pause, like an abnormally long pause. And then I'm just staring at this black screen. And I saw, keep moving forward in big white letters. Some people have corrected me saying, it's keep swimming forward. Well, even better, I was going to SEALs. Yeah. So shut up. It's my story. Get out of here. Yeah. I'm tired of that. So it said, keep moving forward on this big black screen. It just stayed there. Like that freaking producer, the director, knew exactly what Jimmy Watson needed in his house. And man, when I saw that, man, that switch flipped in my head. And I said, all right. I'm all in, and all in like Jake Paul and Tyson in, bro. And so I'm like, so I go and I dump all my stuff. And that was hard to do when you're an addict.
Yeah, bro.
I dumped all my stuff, hid my pistol, threw my rounds, everywhere, dumped all the alcohol, and man, I just started running outside till I threw up. And it was ice cold outside in the winter. I got the case kind of going on. And then I started running farther the next day. And I remember stopping and dang near just I was heaving up. I was like throwing up. And I would go farther the next day. And that's not the best way to train. But it didn't matter. It was mentality. Yeah. And so as I went along, I went into the recruiters. I said, SEAL or no deal. They were like, we don't got no SEAL or no deal contract. I said, well, call me when you do. I was so convinced. I was so determined. People just, they don't, until they understand the type of commitment that it takes, you're not going to get there. You got to be so freaking in that nothing in this world is going to stop you. And I was so convinced of the SEAL. My motto was SEAL or no deal. So I was so convinced of that. When I called the recruiter and they said, we don't have that, I said, call me when you do. Click. 4 minutes later, I'm in Barnes & Noble searching, moving forward, walking around, finding ASVAB for dummies to teach myself math. And so I was going to pass that test. Yeah. I was going to do all that. And so as I go through this process, she calls me back 4 minutes later and says, hey, I'm so sorry. We have SEAL program. We have a guaranteed SEAL contract. Doesn't mean you're going to guarantee make it, but if you make it, you have a guaranteed SO rating, SEAL rating. And I said, all right, that's what I thought. Let's do it. And so start all the process. And during the process, man, I never looked back. Flushed all that stuff, never freaking looked back. Trained my ass off. And I mean, dude, it's like training into the abyss. Yeah. No hope in sight. Yeah. Got the Blackwater case going. And I remember, man, right when I literally got word that I had been accepted in the SEAL program, man, this is how God works. They called me, they said, hey, you got accepted. It was like a year-long process, bro. And right when they said that, it's like literally I get word that Judge Urbina, the most liberal judge ever, that's trying this Blackwater case at the time, and it's his last case. And so my lawyer, who was Preston Burton, Monica Lewinsky's lawyer, paid by Blackwater Insurance, he's like, Jimmy, I'm sorry, but this don't look good. This guy's a liberal judge, and it's his last case. And so he's probably going to just fry you, And I'm like, whatever, man. And I was always running, always training, always studying math now. And I remember he called me and said the case is dismissed. Judge Urbina said enough is enough. It was prosecutorial misconduct. They had got the Blackwater guards' testimonies off of the Castigar sealed documents. It's like somebody going through all your medical records and saying you got cancer or something and nobody knew about it and you only knew and you don't want nobody to know about it. Anyways, case is dismissed. I thread that needle, man, because I just walked it out by faith every single day.
Straight up.
Just walked it out, bro. I mean, against all odds in the storm, yelling into that storm, do your worst, I'm going to do mine. And so the case got dismissed. This time I take the SVAB, I make like an 88 or a 98, I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But it was like everything came to fruition. I was in the best shape of my life. I was 220 pounds, pretty ripped, pretty mean, lean mean, running machine, swimming machine. And but timing was everything. I was inadequate a lot of my life. I didn't have the intellect abilities. I wasn't picking up things. But now everything came together. It was like weird. It was like everything aligned, and my body was right, my mind was right, I was sharp. I knew what I wanted, determined, vicious, and I had that lion's heart always. That was there from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so I got accepted in the program and went through the SEAL program pipeline.
Fuck yeah, bro. I love hearing that.
Crazy.
shit. And as an outsider and someone that pretty big into working out, it almost sounds like that training might have saved your fucking life. Like during that whole legal battle, getting off all the fentanyl and shit, it's like that's what kept your fucking mind straight, was training.
Training has been, you know, I push that out there all the time to guys. Anyone I meet, I like, look, if I find myself complaining, Chris, during the day, I go back to my 3 staples. I say, hold on. Do I have the right to complain today? Do I have, let's go through my checklist, okay? Did I wake up and did I give thanks to God, and did I sit down and meditate and get the plan of the day and prioritize my situation? Did I do some type of meditation in the morning? Did I sit there and get the download? Okay, check. Okay, I did that, so I'm still complaining. Did I drink my coffee? You know, did I go work out? Check. You know, and I'll tell you what, if I go through there and I check those 3 things off, I'm not complaining today.
Yeah.
But if I'm complaining, I know I missed one of those things. I know I missed one of them, and it's so important for a man.
Yeah.
We've gotten so far away from that.
Yeah.
Physical training is just paramount, and it's not necessarily to aesthetically look good.
No.
It's to be a man of action.
Yeah.
And it does everything else with your psychology and stuff as well, you know?
No, I agree. I think we've lost, like that used to, I think, just be the norm. I always just think of like the Romans. It's like, that was just what you did.
That's what you did.
Where, I mean, I would probably say modern times is where we've lost that, because we're not as physical, right? But I know even for me, fuck, bro. If I don't train, I'm a different person. Yeah. Even like this morning, I'm like, I want to get a training in the morning because we're doing the podcast, and I want to be in my best state. Like,
exactly.
I want to be feeling locked in. All right, so you get in the SEALs. What happens after that? You go back overseas. You're doing more tours.
Yeah.
And how was that going back after all that shit?
It was crazy. I knew some of the Buds instructors knew me from Blackwater, and I was highly respected in Blackwater. Super respected in Blackwater, you know, because you're there for a long time. You survive all the battles. You start, you know, just like back in the Roman Empire, you start getting respect.
Yeah.
You know, earned respect. You know, and so I had that rapport with the men because I knew what the men wanted, and I was giving the men something that a lot of other team leaders weren't, and it was easy. It was like the guys want to work. Guys are sled dogs. They want action.
Yeah.
They don't want to sit at home all day. They don't want to sit in the green zone all day while their buddies are getting killed. They want a team leader that has freaking balls. They want a guy that's going to say, we need leaders in our families, in our communities. We need guys to stand up and say, hey, this ain't right. Let's fix it. Let's go do it. Let's get together. One fight, one cause, one battle. And so go to Buds and SEALs, and the instructors, a lot of them knew me, and so that was cool. I didn't get any favors there, unfortunately. I wish I would have. I really do. But they don't do that. They're the worst on their own brothers, like biological brothers. Destroy them, dude. Like they hate them. And so make it through that. But it was weird because I thought that it would be a bad situation for me because I had United States Marine Corps tattooed on my back. You know, and I had, you know, it's not always what it seems, man. And so all these different things that I thought were negatives and that were holding me back are the things that were actually the super positives. It really helped me being a Marine.
Paradigm shifts.
Yeah.
Yeah, you realize it was your talents, I guess, that you had that other people didn't.
Yeah, and I was holding myself down this whole time. I was the one saying I wasn't good enough. I was the one saying that I wasn't smart enough. I was the one saying this. And so I was real self-critical, maybe from getting beat up, maybe from these weird different things happening in your life.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're being held down and stuff. But yeah, when I got to the teams, it was a great time, man. And it was another moment in my life that I look back at now as one of the best times of my life, like Blackwater. It was another incredible time. It was a unique time in the teams.
Yeah, bro. So how long were you doing that?
8 years total in the SEALs. And then about the time, you know, there's two things in life I always consider. You're either basking on the rocks, like the Count of Monte Cristo story. He does a toast, and I stole this from him. But he does a toast, and he's like, you know, you're basking on the rocks one moment, and then you're basking in the sun one moment. You're shattered upon the rocks the next. But it's what you do when that storm comes that makes you a man.
Yeah,
you must shout it. And so, you know, in the SEALs, I was basking in the sunlight again. I had made it through another tremendous storm, you know, and then I'm basking in the sunlight now, and then I get called in the office, and I'm like, "What's up, Commander G?" You know, all this stuff, everything's going great, and there's a couple of JAG officers there, you know, JAG officers, and they're standing there,
The military lawyers.
in all their uniforms, and I'm like, "What's up, guys?" You know. Kind of forgetting about the storm that passed, and because the case was dismissed for the Blackwater, and they're like, "Jimmy, you know, sit down. You have 10 days left to be in the Navy." I had never heard of this. I didn't know they could kick you out that fast to the military. 10 days to literally pack your bags and you're gone. That's what they were telling me, and it was weird because I've never heard of that, and I did a lot of research. That just doesn't happen. There's a process, but 10 days to get your stuff and leave, and I was like, I'm not going nowhere. And they were like, no, you are going, you know. And I was like, what is this about? And they threw me a memo that an FBI, a rogue FBI agent had written regarding my testimony for the Blackwater trial. And I should back up. The Blackwater trial had been re-drummed up while I was in.
After Obama got elected.
Obama got elected. This case was done. Thrown out with prosecutorial misconduct.
Under Bush.
Under Bush with Judge Urbina, right? Biden is elected. I'm sorry. Obama is, it's confusing. Obama is elected, and as soon as he gets elected in office, he designates an entire new team to vehemently go after the Blackwater guys. And so I'm notified of this. They call me down to testify. Of course, I have compulsory immunity, which I secured there. And I go there and testify. And man, after that, they absolutely hated me. The DOJ wanted to destroy my life. And that's the truth. They said, we're going to come after your career. And so now my whole career was in jeopardy. And they this FBI agent wrote a memo and that completely mischaracterized my testimony, basically saying things that I didn't say. You know, and I didn't know they could do that. But he knew my testimony was sealed in the grand jury and that my commander couldn't see it. And so, of course, the commander takes their word for it.
Right.
He could have fought back on it, but didn't. And so it was unlawful command influence, you know, which I later won my case against. It was a long story. But they said I had 10 days left to get out of the Navy. And I looked at him in the office. I'll never forget. I'm standing in this office, and I'm staring at him in his eyes. And I just can't believe, like, me and this guy are barbecue buddies, first name basis, wives hang out together.
Right.
And now he's looking at me like I'm a nobody.
Yeah.
Like nobody. Like he's not there.
Yeah.
You could tell he's terrified of losing his own job. Yeah. He's about to retire.
It's a shitty feeling.
Yeah. And so he says, I got 10 days left to go out of the Navy. And I remember looking at him in his eyes, and I said, sir, I'm not going nowhere. And he says, no, you are, Jimmy. And if you fight this,
it's going to be like charging a machine gun nest. He was playing off the Marine Corps, my Marine Corps background, charging a machine gun nest. And I remember, man, just kind of being witty, saying, you know, sir, if it wasn't for guys charging machine gun nests, me and you wouldn't be standing here right now. And basically saying, get ready.
Yeah.
Because dude, I didn't go through hell to get here just to say, oh, okay. And too many people do that.
Yeah.
In the military, in civilian world, they're told something that they know is not right in their heart.
Yeah.
They know it's wrong, but they just kind of out of fear, they just say, okay, I guess you're right. I'll just get my stuff. My wife's in a freaking neck brace right now, you know, at home. I'm taking care of her, and I'll just trash it all the blood, sweat, and tears. And I said, man, no, not off of my back, brother. And they looked at me like I was crazy. And I'll tell you, 10 days later, I filed more complaints. I threw more stuff at them than a full battery of howitzers, man. And I remember 10 days went by. And I was still in my uniform, still with the trident on. And I walked by. And, you know, this commander even said, he said, you know, that my commander, he said, you know, you're out of here in 10 days, Jimmy. And he guaranteed that. Like 100%, he was vehement about it, like he wanted. And so I walked by after 10 days, and I remember he's standing out there in his uniform. I walked by, and I just slapped him on the shoulder hard, like slapped him, you know, you just don't do this. Right. You know, it's not normal behavior for an enlisted E-Dog SEAL to do this. And I slapped him on the shoulder. I said, hey, sir, good morning. And he looked at me, he goes, Jimmy. He said, good morning, son, or something, you know. And I was like, I'm still here. And he goes, I see that, Jimmy. I said, I'm still here, sir. And I just looked him dead in his eyes, like, and I'm going to be here. I'm going to. And so I had to fight. Man, I charged the machine gun nest. And it was a year and a half, almost 2 years of just all out, man, fighting them. And I had the evidence that said my testimony. I said, if I lied, they charge you with perjury. Mm-hmm. But obviously, they're just trying to destroy my career. And I had to prove all this, had to go in front of a board. And the board guys were appointed by this commander and this admiral in charge. And so he told them to come there. So it's a kangaroo court, so you know you're done. Yeah. I was pretty much done, but there's always another option in this life. And I thought I was done. I thought it was over. But I had one last option, and that was to appeal to Caesar, appeal to my commander, which in any other case wouldn't have, it would be to the commander that kangaroo courted me, the guy that said you have 10 days left. But in this case, it ended up being a new commander, Commander Parado. God bless him, man. Very, very few leaders, very few men, I believe, are out there under this circumstance that would do what he did, because his boss was the Admiral Losey. And so he's under direct orders to kick me out. Mm-hmm. And no matter what. But I can appeal to him, this new commander. So I go in there with all my stuff. I put it on his desk. I don't even know if they're going to let me in the SEAL command because I'm pretty much done. I've been fighting for 2 years. I'm tired, or a year at that point. There was a big fight ahead, but I go in there and 40. He said, "Looks like you have some stuff for me, son." And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Put it right there." He said, "Go ahead and sit down." I said, "Nah, I'll stand." I was making a stance like I don't care no more. Yeah. I like Shawshank Redemption when the guy goes in, and I think it's Morgan Freeman. He goes in and in his last time with the parole board, he just goes, "Go ahead, do what you got to do. Yeah. I don't care anymore." Yeah. And that's when they parole him, right? Yeah. And that's how I was. I just didn't care anymore. And went in there, put the stuff on his desk, and he looked at me and says, I said, "Sit down." And I said, "All right." And I sit down, and he's like, "It looks like you have some stuff for me." I said, "Yeah, I have a bunch of things I would like you to see, and I would like you to deliberate on." And I said, "But I know you're not going to. I know you're going to." And I started kind of mocking him. I said, "I know you're not going to. I know you're just going to sign the thing and kick me out because, the admiral has ordered you to." Yeah. And he looked at me, I'll never forget it. And he said, "Son," he said, "don't ever, ever make the mistake of telling me what I can do and what I can't do. He says, I'm going to take the full 40 days and look at your case, and I will decide whether or not you stay in. And so I didn't really believe him.
Yeah.
It took 40 days, but on Christmas Day, again, I've gotten bad news on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
I've got some good news. 40 days later to the day, it was Christmas Day. He calls me on my personal cell phone and said, Jimmy, I'm reinstating you into the SEALs, giving your selection, giving your choice of team. And man, it was such a huge victory. But Nietzsche said, be careful when you chase monsters, for you may become one.
Yeah.
And I just became a monster through the process.
Yeah.
Because when you have that much hate and anger built up, you know, I had to find forgiveness, man. And there's a big story in between here where I actually went to the mental hospital, hung myself. It was a tremendous fight, but it lasted 2 years. I was reinstated. Then I honorably retired from the SEALs. And it was it's not the way I chose that, but it's not the way I wanted it to go.
Yeah.
But I was burnt out.
Yeah.
I was tired.
Tired of it.
Yeah, I was super tired.
Well, it sounds like almost like the thing you love the most caused you the most pain in a way. Like
Yeah.
just dealing with all the shit would just take the romance out of the job.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you honorably left.
Yeah. I mean, honorable is not on a piece of paper, you know. I've learned that, you know. There's SEALs that get out with look like a Russian general, just walking down the street. And I know that they were dishonorable in their actions, especially when they fry other guys. I'm not out to bash the SEAL teams. I love the SEALs. Got a lot of buddies in right now in great places doing crazy things. And I got a lot of dudes that are out that got railroaded for doing the right thing and got dishonorable discharges. I got out honorably, but I don't look at it as that piece of paper being the end all for a SEAL, you know, or for a Marine. Because I know a lot of Marines that got out and got screwed over by the man. And who gets screwed over is the door kicker, the guy that's going in every single time, the guy that's scoring the touchdowns. He's the one that gets investigated. He's the one that gets all the heat, not the guy in the back of the stack, proverbially speaking.
Right, the
you
guy
know,
doing the work,
yeah, it's the guy doing the work,
doing the best job
Yeah.
that he was trained to do.
It's the guy getting in the arena. You know, it's the bullfighter. You know, he faces down his fear. He gets out there, he takes down the bull, or he gets killed doing it.
Yeah.
And so when you're a man of action and you're taking big risk, you know, British SAS motto, he who dares wins. You know, when you're daring, you're going to win big, but you also got to get ready to be the man in the arena who gets mire and mud and blood on his face.
Hell yeah. Theodore Roosevelt, The Man in the Arena, look it up. Great fucking poem.
Beautiful poem, man.
No, I think that's powerful, and I can relate with that even just in my own business journey, you know, where a lot of these lessons carry over, you know, because a lot of it's just fucking human behavior and seeing how people, I just think we have too many people that aren't stay true. They're not true to their fucking selves. They're true to the system or whatever organization that they're playing in. You don't have enough guys honoring themselves and the truth.
It's because we're brought up in a fake world,
Yeah.
and we're taught that in order to make it in this world, you have to be fake. And a lot of guys may argue with me and say, "Well, no, I'm not being fake. I'm not wearing a mask." If you don't realize that you're wearing a mask or you're not in this life, then you're wearing the mask.
Yeah.
You know. And the guys that say like this, that's not for me. I don't have fears. I've never dealt with fear. I'm too hard for that. Bro, you know, I was at the top of my game in the SEALs and ended up in a hospital dying with my newlywed wife looking at me, and I'm like blacking out and the heart monitor's going down after a major accident. And I realized then that all the willpower in the world, all the hardcore, like you could do this, run ultra marathons, this, on your own willpower. To an extent, until you're snuffed out.
Yeah.
You know? And so we're not really that powerful, but we are powerful when we understand that we got to take the mask off, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Straight up. All right, so you get out of the SEALs. What did you do after?
Get out of the SEALs. Like I said, I didn't want to get out, and but I chose to get out. It's not what I thought my career would end like.
Right.
And so, but I get out, and we're always looking for a tribe of men. Iron sharpens iron only at the right angle. So how do you find that right angle? And you don't start hanging out with an outlaw biker group like I started to do. I started to hang out with some really bad guys, even during my time in the teams, and I was always pretty wild. And anyways, I get out, and I find this group of like-minded dudes, warriors, saved in America, who they're doing anti-human trafficking, rescuing kids in San Diego County. It's a $800 million a year industry in San Diego County. That was back 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it is now, but that's like a revolving super Walmart door of John's. And it's crazy out there. But anyways, joined them, a bunch of ex-SEALs getting together and going and rescuing these kids from cartel houses, working with law enforcement and stuff. And so that was exciting because I was part of a brotherhood, doing something cool, doing something meaningful.
Yeah.
Something that's not talked about, this human trafficking. It's just not talked about. It's like hush, hush.
Yeah.
But it's happening to rich, poor, doesn't matter. A girl leaves her house, runs away for a few minutes and gets nabbed up. It happens all the time because they have a system. It's like a military organization, the cartel, the drug dealers, the homeless, and they work together, combine forces to grab these girls. They transfer them across state lines. So was doing that, and then wanted more out of life, and kind of wondering what I was going to do. And I mean, now I'm like walking up the stairs in my 2-story house, my VA paid house, and I can hear my knees cracking, and I'm just like, dude, all of this for what? And so a lot of veterans are out there getting out, and they're broken. And then when you're physically broke and in pain, you're like, man, what the heck was all that for? Pulled out of Afghanistan all jacked up, went to a war in Iraq where there's supposedly nuclear weapons that there wasn't. I mean, dude, total mess with your mind, because remember, I came from the mindset of looking up in the sky thinking God saying, I want to serve my country. I want to be patriotic. I would die for my country. And then you face reality.
You learn.
You go to wars that we should never been at. I stayed at James Haley Veterans Hospital, did a stint there. Went to a mental hospital, hung myself in that place with other SEAL veterans, other military veterans that were in just as much as pain.
Yeah.
And that's where I understood that war is no match for her aftermath. That the aftermath of war is way worse than war itself. And so I'm kind of like lingering around this world, kind of lost, man. And then I get a call from my buddy, Cav. And he's like, yo, bro. He's like, John McAfee? And I'm like, Cav, what are you doing, bro? Where you at, son?
Yeah.
And he's like, yo, man. He's like, check your computer, your computer screen, the McAfee antivirus. And I said, oh, yeah, that guy. John McAfee. I didn't know anything about John McAfee. Didn't know anything about him supposedly murdering anyone in Belize or anything documentaries. And so I said, yeah, I know. And he goes, he'll pay you whatever. He's going to call you. He needs a SEAL to come to his house like tonight and guard him. And I said, can you go? I said, man, I'm in California. I said, where is he? He said, Lexington, Tennessee. I said, dang, why can't he be in the Caribbean or something, Colombia or something.
Yeah.
So he's in Lexington, Tennessee. He calls me up. He said, you know who this is? And I'm like, I think it's John McAfee. And he's like, that's right, son, never forget it. I was like, okay, whatever. And he's like, how much you charge? I said, well, I charge $500 to $1,000 a day, depending upon the threat, threw some numbers out there,
Yeah.
And he's like, that's ludicrous. I only pay my Green Berets $250 a day. And I said, well, sir, it's your life. It's your life. And I think that was the first negotiation that John McAfee ever lost, because I played off of that. It was his life.
Yeah.
It was his, but I was being serious.
Yeah.
For me, I knew my value as an operator and what I could provide for him. I could protect him. I could save his life possibly.
Yeah.
And I was the guy he was going to need around if the bullets start to fly. Because a lot of guys, are getting paid a lot of money to protect these guys. But when the bullets really start to fly, man, guys are going to skedaddle.
Yeah.
Who cares about the 500 or 1,000 a day? And so, but I was pretty loyal dude, and loyal to a fault, they say. And that's been one of my problems and themes in my life is I get attached to other people. I'm loyal. I want them to be loyal. I want to share that loyalty, that brotherhood, and it can be disappointing.
Yeah.
And so I go to John McAfee's, man, a crazy, wild adventure happens, like crazy. Another time in my life where I look back and I'm like, I can't believe that happened.
Yeah.
It was a freaking blast. It was an insane learning experience that I had to lean into. I didn't know anything about cryptocurrency. Didn't know anything about what his business was. Wasn't planning on learning.
Yeah.
But John McAfee was an incredible teacher, and he was a billionaire. Didn't have any children, or claims he had 37, which I kind of believe, but didn't have a son that was there. I think he had a nephew that burned alive in an airplane crash that he taught him how to fly, and it was really hard on him.
Yeah.
But I reminded him of his nephew. And so he took me in under his wing, took a light. He made me pass a bunch of tests, and I started not just protecting him, but he felt super comfortable with me. I was the only guy, including Janice, person in his life that never approached him. And so when you don't approach somebody as a billionaire, let's say you're a billionaire, and you call me out of nowhere, and I didn't come to you asking for anything, that was my ace of spades.
Yeah.
Because I held that card over him all the time because he was paranoid, thinking guys were chasing him and stuff. And I always reminded him, sir, just remember, you came to me. I didn't come to you. So I can't be a spy or out to get you or out to cheat you like others are doing and that I saw do and that he could see doing.
Right.
And so it was heartbreaking for him to be a billionaire and people would use you all the time, right?
Of course.
Well, he's a billionaire. Who cares? Well, it's still, if you were a billionaire, you wouldn't want people stealing buku money from you. Yeah. And it was a crazy environment, bro. And but he taught me about crypto.
He ended up being CEO of his company.
Ended up being the CEO of his company. Went there as a bodyguard.
That's wild.
And crazy life story. And end up going through the ranks, bodyguard to executive advisor to like lead negotiations, and then basically took over. I was doing the CEO job.
Yeah.
And one day he said, "What? You ain't gonna thank me?" And I had this beautiful office, cherry, big desk. I was overlooking the Ocracoke Sound, all these boats out there in Roanoke. I'm sorry, Ocracoke, I believe it was. Anyways, where Blackbeard would evade the British man of warships in the shallows there. It was really cool historical area. And just a beautiful office, had it made, everybody was eating lobster and steak. I was eating ramen noodles. I mean, he drove me hard, but I was a CEO. And one day he came in there, he said, "Aren't you going to thank me?" And I said, "Thank you for what? You work my ass off, sir. That's all I do is work." He says, "Well, I made you CEO on Twitter, like I announced it like 2 weeks ago. You ain't said nothing?" And I said, "Well, damn, I didn't know that. Thank you, And I just kept working. So I just assimilated into that role. Made a ton of money with John McAfee, and incredible experience. Partied with Russian oligarchs. Traveled the world over 10 times. Stayed with all kinds of incredible people. Really got to experience a life that I thought I had already. You think you've experienced life until there's levels to this. Yeah. And so end up breaking away from McAfee. We had some issues and troubles, and I didn't agree with a lot of that stuff that was going on, and so I ended up leaving. Crazy story, probably too long to talk about here, but ended up breaking off from him. Go home. John McAfee gets arrested shortly after. I hear he gets arrested. I've already taken a sabbatical overseas. I'm not coming back because I know my time is up. I was the CEO. I was a right-hand man, like his son.
Yeah.
He told me all of his dark secrets, right? And so I know that I'm next.
You've been down this road before.
I've been down this road.
Yeah.
And I honestly couldn't handle
anything else. You
Yeah,
know, I was taxed out.
Yeah, I bet, bro.
You know, too much had gone on in my life. You know, there's a point. You know, every band's got to know his limitations. Clint Eastwood. You know, and I knew my limitations.
Yeah.
I couldn't possibly take another hit. I didn't feel you could do 1,000 times more than you think, but I didn't want to face the music.
Yeah.
And so I was running from myself. I was running from the law, theoretically. I wasn't answering their mail. So, you know, and that's running, trust me. They weren't
in
happy
their
about
mind,
it.
that's running, bro.
You can justify it all you want.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't answering their mail.
Yeah.
You know, but in reality, man, I was running from everything. I was running from God, running, you know. And when you're running like that, you're running from yourself.
Yeah.
It's like you're literally running from yourself.
Straight up.
And so here I go again, man. Here I go again, like that song. Here I go again. And I head off to Colombia. I sail around Spain, living the life. But really, it was a super dark time. Because when you're running like that, you got anxiety. You
got no peace of mind.
There's no peace of mind.
No.
Like an outlaw has no peace of mind. And you don't have to be running from the law to be an outlaw.
And everyone says, I mean, every outlaw I've seen, they always say it was relieved. I was relieved when I got caught.
Relieved.
Yeah. You
Relieved.
said the same thing.
Yeah. And so I'm in Colombia, Medellin, doing mercenary stuff, you know, real stuff, real no joke stuff.
Yeah.
Working for Background Asia, doing some crazy stuff, and end up having to come home. It was during COVID. Like, in fact, I had met Cav briefly, and Taylor Kavanaugh was going to the French Foreign Legion, and here I am running from myself, the law of God, and so we split ways. Our last meeting was like 4 or 5 years ago, and I met him in Hawaii, and he went to the French Foreign Legion, and I went to Colombia to do mercenary stuff. Crazy, wild story. But I end up having to face the music, and I knew that I had to come home. Like, there's a point in our life where we have to eventually, no matter how much drugs you're doing, no matter how many girls you're dating, no matter what kind of fast life you're driving a Lambo, exotic cars, no matter what, you're living in a trash can, you have to come. It's called a meet with Jesus. It's the bottom of the barrel. And some guys think they're there, and they cry out to God, and they keep meddling around, and nothing happens. It's because you ain't reached the bottom yet. You're like right here, and there's like about a mile to go.
Trap door still got to drop you a little farther.
Yeah, and you got, and I call it the great humbling, you know. And I needed to be humbled.
Yeah.
You know, when you make that much money, do that much stuff, you're not living in reality.
No.
It's not reality.
Yeah,
There's no normalcy to it. So, man, it wasn't like I was going home to get arrested, but I was going home and taking a Russian roulette, you know, the deer hunter stuff, you know, past the Russian roulette, you know. And so I went home, visited my mom for a couple of days, and I had bought non-extraditionary, you know, tickets to Bali, a non-extraditionary country, which the FBI later told me there's no such thing to it. If anybody out there is trying to escape to a non-extraditionary country, there is no such thing.
You're not safe anywhere.
You're not safe anywhere. They do a under the hand table deal with that government. The government arrests you for a speeding ticket, and then they send you back to your homeland.
Swap.
Yeah, and then you get arrested upon return to the customs. They knew everything about me. Every single time I was going through customs for that 2 years, I would get pulled aside. I thought it was just because I stood out like a sore thumb, a gringo, right? In Colombia, in Nicaragua, San Salvador. But every single time I went through the airport, I would get pulled aside for a long time. They would take my bags, treat me super nice, like how you doing? Not ask me any questions, like, are you smuggling drugs? Nothing. And I'd be like, yeah, everything's cool. Yeah, what's up? And they'd be like, no, nothing. And then about 30 minutes later, an hour, give me my bags, and I'd leave. And it never dawned on me what's going on. I go home, get the tickets. I'm with my mom, having coffee. FBI just rolls up on me hard.
Heavy.
Dallas SWAT team.
Fuck,
I mean, everybody, bro.
Theatrical.
Like a freaking army, man.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you said, when they came up on me like that, minus my mom being there and me and not wanting her to get killed or something. I didn't know if it was the mob or something weird at first.
Yeah.
But when they came out and I saw the blue jackets, they were plain clothes, but blue jackets with FBI, I knew it was over.
Yeah.
And I was relieved.
Yeah.
I let out a big, deep breath, and I was more calm in that at that time in my life than I have ever been in my life.
Wow.
It was like a sense of a flooded relief.
Yeah.
I was like, "Thank you, God. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go to Bali because I was leaving America for good, for life, for life. I couldn't come back. I knew that, and so got thrown in the feds, got transferred out to house arrest, facing 15 years in prison. That great humbling. I've been humbled because I knew. My lawyer told me, Jimmy, you're going to prison for 12 to 15 years. If there's any deals to be made, which I wasn't planning, because I'm like this little dude. I'm like this, die hard guy. Mm-hmm. If there's any deals to be made, you'll do maybe 2.5, but that's like minimum. But you're going away, and they don't need you anyways. And so, man, I was, flipped my life upside down. I'm on house arrest. I cry out, I had hit the bottom. I thought I was at the bottom here. Nah, you ain't at the bottom yet. I go all the way to the bottom, to the crude barrel bottom, the bottom of the pit. And that's when I realized that I needed help. I needed God. I needed something supernatural to intervene in my life. And I wasn't crying out to God to save me from prison.
Yeah.
No, it's way deeper than that.
Yeah.
It's deep. It's like a deep, I don't care about prison. I don't care about death. I care about, I want to feel alive.
Yeah.
If I go to prison, but I just I need something in my life. And so I cried out, man. I'll never forget. I said, Jesus, I said, if you're real, help me. I'll do anything. If it's in prison, it's in prison. Whatever it is, man. And I don't think people realize that God is not operating on our same plane. Yeah. His understanding is infinite. And so when we, how could he hear me in that and not those other prayers? Well, I hadn't reached the bottom of the bottom, and I wasn't crying out from deep within here.
Yeah.
And I cried out with all my heart, man. And I was dead serious, brother. I was like, save me, God, from myself. Yeah. Save me. And the very next day, I got an invite to this place called Operation Restore Warrior. And didn't know anything about it, but I remembered I prayed at 3 a.m. because you ain't sleeping. You ain't sleeping. And so I get a call from this group, and I'm like, I'm sorry I can't go. I would love to go to your retreat. It's like a retreat for veterans, Operation Restore Warrior. And I said, I'm on house arrest. And they said, well, we don't judge you. I said, well, the Texas judge said I probably, he probably ain't going to do this. I got a big ankle monitor. And I almost went upstate New York. I barely was able to get on house arrest. I won that case. But they said I was a flight risk and a danger to society, being a SEAL, all this weird stuff.
Sure. 2
different factors to keep me in jail. And so, but I go. The judge lets me because of veteran status. He says, okay. He goes, send this boy over to, he's Texas. Send this Billy Bob over to Operation Restore Warrior. I go, and they start telling me, this guy, the owner there, Paul Lavelle, he's like, Jimmy, you ready to meet Jesus? And I'm like, man, I laugh at him, bro. I said, dude, I can't believe you tell people that. I said, like I don't believe in this stuff. I believe that there's a supernatural power, But this whole Jesus thing, don't keep that for yourself. Yeah, keep that for these other guys, I know negotiations. I've done millions and millions of dollars. Please don't tell me 100%, because he told me 100% I was going to meet Jesus. I said, I can't believe y'all tell people that, mocking him.
Yeah.
Well, the next day, bro, I'm sitting in front of these 2 guys, and I'm condensing the story down for you. But the next day, I'm sitting in front of these 2 guys in Operation Restore Warrior, and they start praying for me. They don't start praying for me. They've already prayed for me. They start asking me about my story, and they got notepads. And I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. You guys remind me of FBI agents. I mean, straight up. Yeah. And they're like, we're not the FBI. We're not. And so just tell us your story. I start telling them my story, and I'm tired of telling my story. I'm tired of walking them through saying this. And as I'm talking, man, the guy's name is Daniel, and I'll never forget. He looked at me. My little brother's name that died his name was Daniel, so it was already a connection. Yeah. And I felt weird in this environment.
strange. Like my hair is sticking up a little bit, you know, and I had done a lot of mushrooms and LSD, so I'm not on that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm here at this place. And he stops me and he says, Jimmy, he said, you skipped over a part of your story. And I said, no, not it. Continue on, you know, let's go. He said, no. He said, you skipped over a part where you were at this house and you called it this name. We called it the Love Shack. And it was a house that was remodeled constructed. It was a mansion over the Love Boat series. And I immediately like sit up like this. And I said, hey, bro. I said, man, I'm a fragile dude. And I said, fragile men are extremely dangerous. I ain't one to be messed with. I don't know how you know that. I said, but I said, I'm out of here. And I stood up. Because if I told you something secret in your past, you'd be like, nah, you'd be like, I'm out. Yeah. It's not like you go pay a psych to tell you, you know, a psychic to tell you your birthday and shit. You know, you're like, okay, well, I try to leave, and he keeps me there, and he goes, no, this is what we do here. And I said, okay, well, if you know so much, then tell me more. And he starts walking me through this house that I was in, and during this very dark time of my life. No, you could not possibly know this. And so I'm, of course, extremely intrigued, but mad. Yeah. Because, you know, he's telling me details about my life that nobody else knows. So I start thinking reality show, like I'm being tricked, set up by the FBI. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. You know, my condition. Well, he starts walking me through this situation. And I say, okay, and all I keep saying is, tell me more. And he keeps walking me through. He walks me through that beautiful office at McAfee's. He walks me through, he tells me about a secret door over an armory, a gray armory door that we kept the guns in. And he's walking me through, and I just keep saying, tell me more. And I just can't believe this guy is revealing my past like a movie, like playing. It's like playing in front of me. He's kind of got he's got the eyes, and he's just walking me through. Okay, and then there's a jacuzzi. Okay, there's 3 levels, and then there's an elevator. What house has an elevator, right? And so he tells me it's overlooking the Ocracoke Sound. And I'm just like, tell me more. And now I'm just standing up, and I'm in his face. And later on, he said he was scared I was going to do something crazy. And I said, tell me more then. And he's like, well, and this is the last time I asked that. He said there was a path you used to walk down behind the house. And Chris, when he said that, my life just shattered, man. Because no one really knew about this path. It was way in the back. It was covered by reeds, by the water. And it was, I remember walking down this path at night, and the stars would be hanging low, and I would be like crying out for God, crying out for something in my life, man. And I was lost, bro, and needed something else. And nothing happened, though, during that time, but I felt some kind of peace, like something peaceful about it. And like someone created those stars. Yeah. They were so low, it's like almost like you could pick them out of the sky. And when he said there was a path you used to walk down, bro, it freaking shattered me. Yeah. And I fell back in the chair just crying like a baby, bro. And I was just like, oh, because I knew, bro. And all the dark places that I'd been in my life, the coke parties, the mercenary stuff, hanging out with an outlaw gang, all the combat deployments, all the terrible stuff I'd seen, hanging myself in the mental hospital, being saved out of situations that I could have died in, that I can't even talk about. Yeah. You know, all those situations, if he was there with me on that dark path, behind that house, he was with me in all that stuff. And how that guy knew that. How could that guy know about that? And it wasn't just like he was recalling some path I was walking down. He was recalling a moment where only I and only God knew about. Wow. And I get emotional, man, talking about it still today, and because it changed my life forever. I just bawled, and I left that room, man, a different man. They even joked around and said, Jimmy, you look different. I even look different than some pictures in the past.
Yeah, I believe it.
I had those dark eyes. I just rolling hard, Texas tornado, you know, the SEALs, violent, all this stuff. And I'm a changed man. And it's through the power of Jesus. And if it was Buddha, I would be telling you Buddha right now. Yeah. But who they called upon was Jesus' name. And that's who came and met me. And I could feel him. And when I stood up out of that room, bro, I stood up and it's like I dropped off physically 2 sea bags of bricks and rocks that I'd been carrying around my whole life. When you carry around that weight your whole life, you forget. You're so accustomed to carrying weight that you don't even know you're carrying it no more. And so after that, man, the same guy that said all that said, you know, your case is going to get dismissed, Jimmy. And I didn't believe that. I believed what they just did to me because it was real. But I go home and the lawyer calls me, says, Jimmy, your case is getting dismissed. They found John McAfee dead in a prison cell. And it was just an incredible experience, man. And my case was dismissed and I was set free from house arrest. And man, I told God, man, if he did that for me, I was going to tell one person or 1 million the rest of my life. And that's what I've done.
Fuck yeah, bro. That's powerful. Appreciate you sharing that, bro.
Yeah.
That shit's fucking, I'm electric right now. Dude. I got goosebumps all over my body.
Bro, and that guy that prayed for me, I later saw him again, Daniel, that guy, Daniel. And I wanted to know what had happened, that exchange. Like, who was talking to him? Like, how did he, what was he seeing a TV screen? And I remember, I said, Daniel, what happened there? And he says, I don't know, man. That's only happened twice before, like that, one other guy. And he says, but all I can tell you is this, Jimmy. I'm going to tell your audience this, is that that the Holy Spirit, Jesus himself, told me to continue to keep answering you every time you said, tell me more, until you believed.
Wow.
And that's what it was. I had to hear it. I had to see it. And I know, brother, to this day, there's only 2 reasons why God saved me. And one is because of his infinite, unbelievable mercy and love. And number 2 is he knew that if I was saved, coming from the background that I've come from, anybody can be saved. Anybody can be helped by the one true. This ain't about church. It's not about religion, man. It's about a real, no joke God that loves them, that's been portrayed as something else.
Fuck yeah. Powerful.
Yeah.
I love that. It is much bigger than religion. I love that you said that. And even you saying, like, for you in that moment, it was Jesus. Some people might be Buddha. You know, it's just belief that there's something powerful in your life that's been with you from the start and is always with you. That was something I've really had to embrace myself. And I can't tell you, bro, that's so powerful, that story.
Oh, man, it was wrecked me, bro.
So how long ago was this?
It was 3 years ago, in June 28th.
So 3 years ago, now we're in Miami, right? We're in Miami fucking beach shooting this. What's life like now? And how are you taking that transformation and applying it to life?
Brother, life has changed for me so much, so radical. I've taken all this experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, and I've focused it into helping others. It's not, if we can help other men, okay, stand up at a time like this, come together and realize the truth of their life, that they're actually warriors, and that they have no limitations, and that what they think they're capable of doing, multiply that by 1,000. I'm not even exaggerating. And so now I've got my Mighty Warrior Tribe, and if this message has resonated with men out there that want to step up to that next level, I hope they come check it out on my page, Mighty Warrior 2023 on Instagram, Mighty Warrior 2024 on YouTube, TikTok. I hope they come check it out and join the Warrior Tribe, because it's radical, man. Guys are breaking chains of addiction, bad habits, and reigniting that purpose in their life. You know, the fire has gone out in so many men out there. And the whole purpose of this group is to reignite that fire, and everything else will work out after that.
Hell yeah. I'm a big believer and supporter of what you're doing, bro. I know we need it. I know, because I've been there too, where I lost that fire in myself and had to get that fucking spark back and reignite. And I'm just grateful for what you're doing and also for what you have done and for your service, obviously, for the country and just sharing your story, big dog.
You're the man,
pleasure.
bro.
Yeah.
Man, I appreciate you, man. It's been a great show, and I appreciate your audience, man, for listening to that.
Hell yeah. All right, y'all. Hope you enjoy it. Make sure y'all give him a follow. Mighty Warrior 2023 on Instagram. Jimmy Watson. Check his shit out. You'll vibe with it. You might recognize him from a viral video too. Give it a check out.